Hi everyone, my name's Mike. I'm one of the tutors for Viscom Theory, and I just sort of wanted to have a bit of a chat to you a little bit about kind of where I come from, my history, and how I've developed through study this ability to really encapsulate what visual communication means to me. I guess I'm a little bit different than a lot of other tutors in that I haven't come from an academic background. I've come from more of an experienced, practical background, and I just want to sort of let you know, how we can use some of those things that we learn in Viscom Theory, and use those skills to go across different contexts. So going from print design to web design, and now through to motion design and video, and just how important it is to maintain a sense of where are our ideas coming from and how can we communicate them to clients to give them the best thoughts on where their brand can go. And really that is involved around strategy, and I guess that's where our second assignment is really useful, in that you've noted those touch points, you've noted what parts of that experience you can document, how you can take that information, create some analytical codes, and then use those to compare different brands and different businesses and see how you can improve them. Okay, so how does my career fit into all this? I guess, I come from a print background, so I started working in the print industry I started as an apprentice in about 1979, doing printing composing. If you look that up, you'll see old guys doing hot metal. So basically I worked with lead. That led on to working with paste up, text, wax. Everything was done manually. So I did that for probably 10 years, and then I started I did that for about 10 years as a compositor, and then I moved into working for an agency doing similar kind of things. When I went interstate for a while, I guess it was all about it was a very mechanical process. Even at that point I was trying to look for ways of doing courses, like predominantly TAFE courses were the thing, but it was all very practical. So in 1988 I was travelling around Australia and having to get a job at the Cairns Post for a few months, and they're actually a technology proving ground for News Limited. So I got introduced to the Mac at that point, and I guess saying that changed my life is a bit of an understatement, because once I could see that I could do things with software, it kind of removed all those barriers of doing things by hand. The only limitations, of course, were the technology itself. They were very slow, expensive. I ended up working for a couple of agencies, worked for Clemenger, and ended up doing my own business for a while. And that kind of led on to the same kind of timing. The internet sort of started, so I took those ideas I had as a print design, and brought that over onto web design. But once again, the technology was very limiting. All the design was done through tables and images, rather than as it is now, using typography and much more refined and more expansive use of CSS, for example. So really the progress from print to web, and then eventually got a job at QUT as a print designer, still doing some web stuff on the side as a freelancer. But really the catalyst for improving my design work was actually doing my masters. So I started my masters in 2005, and really it just allowed me to begin to see how I can use some of those theoretical ideas and then base them more on what I was designing. So particularly with client requirements, because I was still do work for marketing communication, but clients used to have to do cost recovery, so that means that they had to pay money out of their budget for design. So when you pitched a design, it was like you were pitching in a kind of an agency scenario. But allowing me to be able to draw on some of that theoretical knowledge helped me to support what I was pitching to them, how I was going to do this design because of this, this and this, in more of a a theoretical framework, because really when you're trying to pitch something, you have to try and justify why you've made certain decisions. And if you justify it with things like, well, blue's a cool colour, we can use a really nice looking type here, it doesn't really cut it when you're talking about the corporate kind of design, or even freelance design, because really people need to know where your ideas are coming from. And so that kind of started me off on the idea of having some kind of background theory behind what I was pitching to people. And once again, I could take my knowledge of print, web, and then bring that into another thing that I was doing, which was video and motion design. So at the moment I work as a field producer for marketing and communication. So that involves doing videos for researchers, for student recruitment, motion design. Sometimes I'm doing things for social media, events and things like that. So really going that whole road of print, web, and now motion, having some kind of theoretical framework that I can rely on to get to target some of those key ideas that I have to pitch to, because as designers we all have to pitch to what we want people to spend their money on, because obviously you can't just go ahead and do something without getting the client involved, without getting some kind of approval on that process. And really being able to take the problem that a client has, dissect it, break it apart, find solutions to that, and then bring it back together in a solution that works for them, is a really critical skill that a designer has to have, because a lot of it's based around problem solving and how can you get your client to sell widgets or whatever it is they have to do through the best and most effective way that you can do it. And I guess with this last assignment that you've been doing, it really is a really good exercise in how you can take your touch points, the things that you've seen, base it on a theory that you've studied, and then make decisions based on that data as a comparison, and then that will then give you insights into what can work. So once you have those insights, you can then design around those things. From as a takeaway, I guess. So this is only my journey in visual communication theory, but it really has helped me to hit client targets, because I can justify my decisions and I can use that knowledge and experience that I have of multiple contexts, multiple mediums, to really say this particular design will work in this context, this design will work there. And so combining all those elements, we can then allow them to take that strategy and then apply that across a whole different range of suitable vehicles of communication, if you like. So theoretical knowledge is important for you to start understanding the importance of combining all of those sort of disparate elements, and to give your clients something that they can achieve with your help. So it's all about problem solving. And even when you think about I haven't really designed things in a niche. I think some of the disadvantage, I guess, today is that people can really focus on one particular skill. You can spend all day in Photoshop doing montages for Instagram, for example, which is great if you can do it, but sometimes things change. Like when the industry changed for me, when going from a printing compositor to all of a sudden having to deal with the Mac overtaking the whole industry, my whole industry died. So sometimes you need to diversify into some of those other skills, and you'll find that there may be an interest in there. Like for me, I was always interested in moving images in animation, but I really never thought that I would actually take my print design into web, like web animation now, and then motion design in After Effects. So it's an exciting journey, but just be careful that if you get too specialised in one thing, if something happens to that thing, you really can be in some trouble. So it's always good to diversify a bit around things that interest you. So visual communication is one of those things that is so transferable between a print scenario, web scenario, and now motion design as well. And I really think that every designer should have some appreciation of how movement and animation can actually affect a design as well. So hopefully there's just a few little insights. Sorry it's so late. Things have been a bit busy, but certainly use this information and these theories that you've learned and how to use touch points and all those things to really help you to drive your design work in the future. But anyway, all the best, and I'll catch you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.